Hi guys! So yesterday, Lotus, who is another manga YouTuber who makes pretty cool videos, you should check him out if you haven't already, did his top 10 favorite manga covers from his collection and invited other people to do video responses with their own favorite covers, so I thought I'd do that because it sounded like fun. With a couple exceptions, I pretty much stayed away from like standard, like Shonen Jump, Shoujo Beat type of viz covers because the typography is pretty boring and usually the illustration is like restrained to a little box, which is kind of unfortunate. So yeah, without further ado, number 10 is going to be A Girl on the Shore by Inio Asano, published by Vertical. And yeah, it's just a beautiful image taken directly from the comic, which is why it's black and white, and I love the splash of color, especially on the spine. This looks beautiful on my shelf, but it's just a stunning image, and the typography is kind of boring and a little hard to read, so that's why it's kind of at the bottom of the list, as well as, you know, the lack of color. But it is a gorgeous cover. Number 9 is going to be Volume 5 of Tokyo Ghoul. I love Sweet Ishida's color illustrations. They're so expressive. I love his use of digital coloring to mimic a painterly style. It's just gorgeous and evocative. And I am a huge sucker for wraparound covers, and this one is one of those, because it has Rize on the front, but if you turn it around on the back, she is cradling Kaneki. It's just a beautiful illustration, and I love that it wraps around, and I like the way this has been treating the typography here. I think it's very cool. I like that it's more understated instead of just being like a horror font, you know? Like, it's creepy, but not, like, overdoing it, and it really lets the illustration speak for itself. Number 8, standing in for all Magi covers, because they're really pretty, is Volume 3. I basically picked this one because I love Morgiana to death, and I don't have the cover that has Koha on it, which is my other favorite character, so, because I'm behind on the series. But I love this illustration. I love Shinobu Otaka's use of lighting. It's very dynamic and dramatic. Yeah, I like the little characters you see in the background here, and mostly I just like seeing my wife looking radiant in front of the sunset. Aladdin looks cool on the back. One thing that I like about the English volumes covers compared to the Japanese volumes, which this is Volume 3 in Japanese, is that the spine on the Japanese covers, you can see the spine illustration just sort of fades into Shinobu Otaka's name. But in the English spines, you can see the addition of this little genie lamp above the Viz logo that sort of forms the character on the spine as though they are a genie coming out of a lamp, and I just think that's such a fun little detail. It's on all the volumes, and I love when they add little creative details like that. Yeah, I'm a huge graphic design nerd, if you couldn't tell. Number 7 is going to be a really recent edition. This is Volume 1 of Yona of the Dawn by Mizuho Kusanagi. This is a beautiful illustration. I just love this image of Yona sort of looking uneasy, surrounded by all these swords. And I love the illustration on the back as well, with Yona sort of confidently wielding a sword, which sort of shows the transformation that takes place over the course of the volume. But really, I just love the blend of colors. I think the red and the orange and the blue look beautiful together. I love these flowers, and I love the way that these swords just cut across the composition. It's a beautifully composed illustration, and her hair looks lovely. I love the texture on that. Number 6 is going to be another Vertical book. This is In Clothes Called Fat by Moyoko Ano. Again, I just love this illustration. It gets knocked points because I think that the typography is pretty boring. But I do like that it lets the illustration speak for itself. It's a very minimalist approach, which I think works really well because this is such a strong illustration. You really get the point that this is sort of a darker story about a woman with an eating disorder. And I just love the expression in her eyes, this sort of manic, desperate expression. I love the way her fingers are curled into claws, like, and I love especially the way that this sandwich is drawn in order to mimic like some sort of wild beast or like raw meat that she's just digging into like a predator, like the way that the onions come off and sort of form like these bone-like structures. It's just a really creepy, evocative image that works perfectly for this book. Number 5 is going to be the last vertical entry on here, which is Utsubora, the Story of a Novelist by Asumiko Nakamura. I just love her illustration style. It's so sensual and creepy and unique. And I just love the simplicity of this cover. I actually do like this typography in this case. I think it's very simple. I like that it frames her face and doesn't really overpower the illustration. I love the spine with the hand coming down on the white text. It's very elegant. And I just love the illustration on the front and the back, mirroring each other with these two different women. Or are they two different women? It really works for the story, which is more of a psychological type of story. Number 4 is going to be A Drunken Dream and Other Stories by Moto Hagio. This is so beautiful. I love the foiling. It's shiny, if you can't tell. It's shiny! And the side is shiny. So much shine. But I love this illustration. It's beautiful. Again, the lighting is just ethereal and gorgeous. I love the hand coming up to cover stories. I like that it's a wraparound. The illustration does continue on the back, and is superimposed with this sort of foiled image of one of the stories in the book. And that is the one thing that knocks points off for this one, is that this illustration actually isn't from any of the stories in this book. It is for Otherworld Barbara, the first volume of which just came out in English. So that's kind of weird, but I mean it's pretty, so I guess it's okay. Number 3, getting into the top 3 now, is going to be Volume 5 of Mushishi. Specifically, this is the 5th volume in Japanese. Because I like the Japanese covers better than the English ones. This is like straight up watercolor paper. It's really gorgeous. But more than anything, again, it's a wraparound. I love how this nature image like spills onto the spine and then onto the back. It's just beautiful. It actually continues onto the flaps as well, so it's a really big illustration. But I like that Ginkgo shows up on all these covers, but he sort of melts into the background, which is the real star of the show. It gives you a real feeling of what the series is like. Mysterious and full of beautiful nature. I like the typography as well. I like it better than the English title graphic, actually. But yeah, it's pretty. And then number 2 is going to be sort of a stand-in for all the JoJo's volumes, but this is Volume 3 of Part 2 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure with Caesar Antonio Zeppeli on the front. I love this illustration of Caesar. I love all the illustrations he's been doing for each, new book that comes out in these editions. But especially, I love the pose here. Obviously it's supposed to mimic like a crucifix, and given what happens in this volume, it's very fitting. I love the shine. It's pretty. And I like how his hand comes up over the title. I think that's really cool and neato. So, yeah. They've been doing a great job with these. And finally, number 1 is going to be A Bride Story, Volume 2 by Kaoru Mori. I had a hard time picking just one volume from this series because all the covers are absolutely gorgeous. Kaoru Mori's art is just unparalleled. So we have Amir on the front, coming back from the hunt. She looks pretty badass. This goat looks fucking great, by the way. It's amazing. I actually really like the typography here. I like how it's mimicking sort of Arabic script, but still very readable. Really matches the illustration well. And then, more than anything, I love the back. The back illustration on these is always so detailed, and this is my favorite. Has, like, all of her new family, Amir's new family after she married Karluk here. And just the depth in this image, you feel like you could just walk into it. It's beautiful. So yeah, that is my favorite cover in my collection. Really, it could stand in for any cover of A Bride Story. This is such a beautiful series. But yeah, those are my top 10 favorite manga covers in my collection. I would love it if you guys would do one of your own, and let me know. Let Lotus know, because he wants to also know. And yeah, I just love admiring beautiful illustrations, so yes. Thank you for watching. Bye.